Boy, it's been expensive going to the grocery store lately.
Is that you guys? Or is it just us?
I don't think we're eating a whole lot more. But anyways, hey, people got a lot of thoughts about what's going on in the economy, how much maybe there's inflation going on. I'm not the judge of whether or not we are in a place of inflation or what inflation is or whether it's outpacing what's normal. All I know is it's a little bit more expensive for me going to the grocery store and a lot more expensive in some areas. And so I've got some thoughts about that. Maybe you do too. There's a way of approaching this that feels very powerless, and there's a way of approaching it that can actually lead to great opportunity for you. We want to talk about that.
Yes. So stick around.
We'll see you in there.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. I'm excited about this one.
Boy, it's been a little bit more expensive going to the grocery store lately.
Right?
At least that's a story that's kind of telling in my head. And we want to address this here, folks,
I'm like,
because...
but it is.
But it is. Man, have you seen beef? Beef is up. Beef is up. Like, we're looking at beef. Beef's up 7.7%, right? In the last year. And then we also see that, like, even in the last 3 years, we've had a 21% increase in the consumer price index for food.
Yeah.
Versus... prior to that, 10 years, it went 18%, right? So we kind
So it took 10 years to get up 18% in inflation.
Yes.
And then the last 4 years or 3 years
to grow 21%.
Wow.
Okay, so we can look at this. Yeah, let's put it in the circumstance line because
facts. Here's
the thing, folks. There's a lot of circumstances that are around us that we don't necessarily like, and we always get to choose the story that we're going to tell. And and we're speaking here directly to inflation because it's been coming up in coaching, and it's been coming up, gosh, it's even in my own journaling here. Yes. So I want to address it because we can look at it and say, okay, it's a little bit more expensive going grocery shopping today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. Goodness gracious. All right. And we're feeling that. Okay. But we get to choose the narrative. And we're speaking here from just our own experience, guys. In the midst of COVID, in the midst of the shutdown, we launched 2 businesses. That doesn't really make sense. And I promise you, it was not because we chose to have a victim story that said the circumstances sucked for starting a business.
Yes.
Rather, we saw an opportunity that was there. And that really, praise God, comes from just having that abundance mindset work. We want to invite you in this podcast to look at what's going on in the economy today and see opportunity, because there is opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to start a business.
Yep.
But it's an opportunity to respond in a way that feels empowering versus the other way of feeling like a victim to it. All right?
Yes.
Victim mentality, we're getting away from that. So stick around here.
And by the way, too, this is like a meta skill, too, because it's not, if it's not inflation, it's something else that we feel like we're victims to.
Yep.
Some circumstance outside of us, like who's president and da-da-da-da, whatever.
Yeah, it's election coming up, too.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a skill that you can use across the board with anything, but we are going to talk about inflation.
Yeah. Just giving it for context, okay? We want to continue to teach you these amazing skills. Okay. All right, Erin, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. I want to start first with just like this whole understanding of like this powerless place, this victim-y place that we can often put ourselves by the very narrative that we tell, the internal narrative that we tell.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to go into like my mindset coaching training,
defining the terms,
background. Yes. Well, first we got to put something that is factual that we're like looking at. Okay. So like, I like how you kind of gave some numbers and you're like, facts. What is it?
7% increase in beef.
Okay. Facts. Right. And then, so there's a fact, and then we have a thought about the fact. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that is how our brains work. And I'm just laying that foundation before I kind of get into what is a victim and what is a victim mindset. Okay. So first things first, identify if you are a victim. Here's the definition of a victim. Someone whose agency and power has been taken away from them by a villain. Because every victim needs a villain. So... right? So like, has your agency, has your power been taken away? Definition, the actual Webster's dictionary defines a victim as a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, or other event or action.
Like government theft?
Yes.
Institutionalized government theft?
Yeah.
AKA Inflation.
Harm. Yes. And a lot of people might be like, my bank account is being harmed. My
Oh, yeah.
well-being is being harmed.
There's a lot of evidence to support that narrative.
Right. Okay.
But let's see where it goes.
All right. So that is a victim. Now, here's the victim mindset. Okay. Because we can choose to remain there, to remain feeling harmed, to remain having our power and our agency taken away from us, which, by the way, can never be taken away from us. Our agency cannot be taken away from us. It is a gift from God. It is a spiritual power of the soul. Our will, our free will, has been given to us by God. It cannot be taken away. Okay. So here is the victim mindset. It looks something like this. This harmful thing outside of me is happening to me, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Inflation is happening to me. It might come out in words like, did you know it cost me $25? I got one bag of groceries at the store today. Or, gosh, have you seen how much beef costs? All the carnivores that are out there are just like, goodness gracious.
So, yes.
Just want a steak.
So this thing, this harmful thing is happening to me. Okay. That's like the first part of this formula. And there's nothing I can do about it. Okay. Which would lead you feeling powerless. That statement would feel very powerless. Okay. This is a statement in our brain. Just picture it being typed out in our mind and we believe it. Right. And that is the victim mindset. And then we feel powerless. And then there's actions. And you can usually tell when you're in the victim mindset because the action that always happens is blame. You're always blaming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe you kind of fight back a little bit, but then you eventually give up. Right. Because you're feeling powerless.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Sniffles.
Sorry, back to the basics. We are getting back to the basics. This like reframe and all this stuff. Okay, because when we
Feels
think
good.
a thought like this harmful thing is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it, we feel an emotion, which feels powerless, and then we do a thing. Either we blame, we stay in the victim mindset, we don't create anything, we don't do anything, we don't actually, like what we did, create two businesses. You don't do any of that.
Yes.
You just kind of hide. All right.
What is going on here? A little verklempt.
Sorry, there's like...
Got
Anyway.
a frog.
Yes.
That truth getting stuck in your throat. Yes.
It is.
Choking
All right.
on. Okay.
So in this case, we'll throw in there, inflation is happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. We feel powerless. We blame. We self-protect.
I feel angry.
We get angry.
Yeah.
We withdraw from God. We don't really try to we try to control our environment. So we spend less, which is fine. I don't want to say that's wrong.
It makes me want, not saying I do this, but it makes me want to cheat on my taxes. Find ways to cheat on my taxes.
Yeah.
Because it's okay, you are stealing from me with this.
So you're justifying
then,
it.
Yes, there's this justification to go on. Now, I'm not doing this, folks, all right? Don't call the IRS on me.
And you know what? If he was, you probably want to say it on
Give
the
to
podcast.
Caesar what is Caesar, but... God only asked for 10%. So come on. Come on, guys. Right?
saying.
Caesar's getting a little greedy here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you want to do you? We can coach you on this.
Got some thoughts.
Yes.
You think I need it?
Maybe. I don't know. A little bit. Okay. So.
Well, it's let's do it. Let's do it.
But do you like those fruits? Do you like where that thought leads you?
Absolutely not. No,
Right.
it's just.
Where you're you are taking more than you need to. And so I'm going to take whatever.
Yes. Now, here's one of the other things. I on one extreme, I want to fight, and the other extreme, I want to roll over. Right.
Yeah.
I think there is, even in response to this specific circumstance, I think it's appropriate for us to talk about it. Right, to say something to at least be a voice of reason that yells out and says something is off here, something is not right here, and certainly there's ways that we can do it in our democracy through our delegates to really push this. But those are things that are kind of within our authority, within our control. But goodness gracious, I'm not going to go and start the People's Republic of Ingold somewhere.
Give us more money. Stop taking our money.
That was Peter Griffin did that in a Family Guy episode.
I don't know. All right. So, okay. We know where this belief leads us. This victim mindset leaves us, and it leads us to being barren and not really creating anything new and staying a victim.
Yeah. And it puts us blame on, and we in that place also, we never ask the question, Lord, you're allowing this for a reason because you love me. I know, Lord, that you are allowing this, and starting to get into the reframe here, but like, Lord, you allow all things. Everything that's happening is happening because you will it, and you only will things that you love. And so therefore, where's your love in this, Lord? Like, why are you in, like, what do you, I look at specifically inflation. I was thinking about this morning, specifically in inflation. What pisses me off about it is I can't buy the stuff that I want to buy. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, I have been hunkering for a steak, and I can go buy a steak, but it's also cost me like $25 for one steak. And it's hard to justify that when I can spend the same amount of money and I can get pork that will last for, 6 or 7 meals.
Or chicken thighs.
Or chicken thighs for that.
Those are great in the air fryer too, by the way.
Yeah. So thank you. Very innovative of it. Like, and it's the thing. We also but this has also been like a renaissance of pork, right?
Yes.
In the Ingold family, where we're just like, let's pull the trigger out and let's start smoking this and let's have like block parties because it's pork. But anyways, like, I just get focused. I get tunnel focused on the vision, on the things
you don't
that
have.
I don't have. I focus on my lack.
Yes. Scarcity. Okay. So that's another thing. So it's almost like that victim mindset moves to that scarcity mindset, which doesn't get us anywhere either. But here's the truth about the situation. The truth is that yes, inflation is happening. You gave us some facts earlier here. These are the cards we've been dealt.
I think we're and that's the thing. I also want to say, I'm sorry. We are not economists, and so we are not the ones that say whether or not inflation is happening. All I can say is this. It's more expensive for me to go and buy beef today than it was a year ago.
Facts.
In my supermarket.
You can look at your receipts and your history of receipts, and you can be like, oh, they're kind of like doubled a little bit. So, okay, that's what I mean by the facts.
Thank you.
Okay. So the truth is that it costs more to go to the grocery store now.
Got it.
That's the truth.
Yes.
These are the cards we've been dealt. And it's also true that unless we are economists who work for the president and actually can come in and change something,
like how much
we really
cash is being
can't
printed.
really do anything about the prices going up. So that is also true. So this is one of those thoughts that I've talked about in past podcasts. This is one of those thoughts that is true, but is not leading to the best fruit, right?
It's leading to a powerless place because you're like trying to control something that is literally not in your control.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Here's the good news. It's also true that you get to choose how you want to think about this. Okay? So you can go down that path and say, this harmful thing is stealing my money and there's nothing I can do about it. I can focus. I can put all my focus on that, right? Why does St. Paul tell us where to direct our focus in Philippians 4:8?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you got
where
it.
he's like, focus on these things. Focus on what is noble,
Praiseworthy.
what is praiseworthy,
Good.
what is
Beautiful.
virtuous.
Yep.
Focus on these things. Guys, our power of focus is so underutilized, and we are normally focusing on the wrong things. Like Matt was saying, you're focusing on the lack.
Mm-hmm. Where you focus literally changes your flesh.
Yes.
Okay. Where you focus literally changes your it's neuroplasticity needs focus, right?
Yes.
Whatever you focus on grows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so focus is so massive. So if you're focusing on your crap story about inflation or the rising cost of stuff, you are going to have a crap mindset, a crap lens that you're constantly looking through and that's going to incline you to feel like this powerless victim every single time you look at your receipt at the grocery store.
Yeah.
All right. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to choose that focus.
Yes.
You don't have to choose that lens.
Yes. I think of Viktor Frankl, and it's the man who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Jewish neuroscientist. Is that what he was? A neurologist?
Psychotherapist.
But I also think he was a neurologist. Anyway, he was a psychotherapist. He wrote a book. He created logotherapy from it, was in the concentration camps, like worst circumstance.
Wife died, family died.
Everything.
4
Watched
years.
everybody who he loved died in front of him. And he says this thing, and this is part of his logotherapy, but also from Man's Search for Meaning. And it's between stimulus and response lies a space. And within that space lies our freedom. Okay? Stimulus.
Grocery bill.
Response. How you think about it, what you do about it, what you actually are feeling about it lies a space. And in that space is your freedom. What do you choose to think about that stimulus? What do you choose to think about that circumstance that is in front of you? This is a man who wrote his greatest work from the worst circumstance ever. Okay? The man believed it, what he told you, and it works. Okay. So, we have two choices. We can choose to be victims, remain victims to this, or we could choose to look at this circumstance of prices going up as an opportunity to think another way, to choose another mindset, to choose resilience, hopefulness, resourcefulness, creativity, anything else. If I were to walk around a party and I was like, here, choose your perspective on this, and I had a tray, and then I had a tray of like a big pile of Dookie. And I was like, you could choose the victim mindset, or you could choose any of these, and they're all beautiful and look delicious. And, what else do you want to choose? I always think about the greatest generation ever, our grandparents.
Questionable. Depends on your narrative, but go ahead.
I mean, a lot of people agree with me on this. They were a great generation.
They endured some very difficult times.
And that's why. They grew in resilience. I mean, most of them were children going through the Great Depression. So, like, this whole thing that you're saying, like, I don't get to buy what I want, right? Like, they didn't have that. They had already grown in this resilience and this sacrifice.
Yeah, and they learned that, regardless of the circumstances, they can kind of maintain that same disposition. They can kind of still, in all circumstances, praise God always. Right?
St. Paul
says, yeah.
St. Paul being in prison, being like, hey, I know what actually builds up. Like, I know how to be. I have learned, I love this line from him. I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every circumstance, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do this through him who gives me strength.
Give me some of that.
Tell me all of your...
I want that.
Yeah, tell me it all.
But that's the beauty. That's the promise of the Christian life here, folks. And so oftentimes, but like there's laced in there is our work to do with the agency that God has given us. So Aaron's been talking about it, choosing your thoughts. Like, yes, the Lord can give you a word, but you still have to choose with your will to think that word and focus on that word again and again and again and again.
Yes.
There's a reason why the psalmist in Psalm 119 says, Lord, I meditate on your law day and night. Why? Because it's actually changing him. It's that active meditation and the focused attention is literally rewiring his synaptic connections so that when he looks at the world, he sees through the lens of God's beautiful law, and it inspires an awe in his approach and this abundance mindset. And it serves as a reminder of the order of God, of the fidelity of God, of his I will never leave you orphans. All of this stuff comes together, and goodness, the security of being able to rest in that amidst the crying out of our flesh for a steak, a nice juicy steak right now, a little Montreal steak seasoning on it. Wouldn't that be nice?
St. Paul's like, cry me a river.
I was shipwrecked 6 times.
All right, okay.
You want steak, right? Man, go to Aldi's. Quit your yapping.
Yeah. Anyway, okay.
All right.
What were you saying? Sorry.
No, just
interrupted.
amidst all of that, it's just like, okay, we really get to choose. And guys, like when our brains have already been wired, and many of us struggle with this, have been wired to that victim story.
Yes.
It's not going to feel comfortable. To focus on the resilient story. There's going to be all these rebellions that are going to be coming up, and your brain's going to be like, yeah, but we call it the yeah buts. All the yeah buts are going to come up, and it's going to be trying to just bring you back to that narrative which you're familiar with, your brain's familiar with, it's familiar with the results that come from it. Feel safe in those places. You know what? Like the Lord is inviting you, all of us, out of those nice, presumably safe, victim-y stories that we have into something that is far greater.
Yeah.
Far greater. And yes, there is risk that's there, but there's incredible reward. There's incredible promise that's there.
As you're talking, I was thinking, why is the victim mindset so comfortable to people?
I think it's because you get to believe that you don't have any more growth or painful growth or work to do
Okay.
anymore. Like I am right. You know, I don't have to change. I don't need to be perfected further. And so I get to rest in just kind of where I am. I think it's something that is, you know, there's an element of narcissism that's there.
Okay.
There's an element of just, of kind of believing that you have got it all figured out and there's no further work for you to do. So there's pride that's mixed up in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be different for each person, but
I think
can
you're
kind of
right.
speaking to what's going on in my own heart. I know I'm constantly wanting to believe the story that I'm already done. I'm already baked. I don't have any further work to do.
Yeah.
My pilgrimage has ended, folks. I've arrived. Follow what I say and do what I say.
Well,
like and share this podcast because I've got it all figured out.
I think mine, probably coming from my temperaments too, like sanguine, phlegmatic, it's kind of like I don't really want to think about the areas where I feel powerless. So I don't even want to focus on those. So it's just a lot easier to like brush over them. But also I feel like it will be hard.
Yes.
It's going to be harder.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't abdicate it anymore. I can't be like, oh, like, oh my gosh.
My goodness gracious. I already stopped the last podcast to take her out. All right.
No.
She didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be a big old present for us in our bedroom.
Anyway, we hear her scratching. Okay. So like, I think it will be too hard. Anyway, if you feel like attached to this victim mindset, just ask yourself, why? What is it? What's in it for me? Because I do think that's worth noticing and not staying there for it. Because guys, on the other side of the victim mindset is awesomeness. It's like growth
Freedom.
and adventure and empowerment, right? You think about like you're having a victim mindset, you feel powerless, you feel empowered when you actually are like, oh wait, I do have this free will that I can actually choose new thoughts. So like it's crazy. Okay. So just to we're going into what do we do now? Now, if you're like, that's me, I have victim mindset. What do I do now? Like, thanks so much for telling me all my problems. Like, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
How do I not have victim mindset?
How do we start building a little bit more resiliency?
Yeah.
You know, in our approach to these harsh circumstances or hard circumstances.
Well, you start with the thoughts. You start with, I think you start with the thoughts. You start with what you want. How do you want to feel instead? Like, what do you feel drawn to? Like, what do you actually want to be doing? I like words and emotions like resilience and resourcefulness and creativity and innovation. And I'm focusing on these other things now, right?
Opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. And instead of being like, oh, I feel powerless, I'm like, how could this be an opportunity? How could I be more creative? Like we were just talking about, I love chicken thighs. I mean, they are incredibly cheap, right? So you start coming up with, well, here's the cards that we've been dealt. Now, how do we want to think about it? How do we want to feel about it? And start asking better questions.
We have exited the season of beef. And we are entering the season of delicious chicken thighs.
Yes, and we're like,
and pulled pork.
How do we make these chicken thighs taste even more delicious? And how do we invite people over and be more generous?
That's where you start to get into these amazing, innovative places where these people, yes, hard times kind of, they introduce new problems, and people, when they have this abundant mindset and they look for the opportunities amidst them, they find things that like they step into that co-creative power that God has given to us and make God visible amidst these circumstances, and his generosity visible amidst these circumstances through some amazing things, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So, okay. I want to give like a short little lesson on this. And I know I've talked about this before. We got to ask ourselves better questions to shift our focus on abundance, onto other things. We have to ask better questions.
And we have to answer the questions
that's right.
that we ask here too. Tell us about that little phenomenon when you ask questions to your brain and you don't answer them.
Well, okay, no, this is actually, there's this thing called instinctive elaboration. It's actually a mental reflex. And it's when a question is posed to your brain, it takes your brain's thought process. It takes over your brain's thought process. So we're talking about focus, right? And it actually puts your brain on a mission to find the answer to that. And it literally, the questions hijack the brain. So when we're asking crap questions like, when is inflation going to be over? You know, like we don't have an answer to, and then our brain goes to whatever.
What is the cause of this?
Right. What is the cause? Right? Like, are you an economist? I don't know. Like, it's because taxes are higher. I don't know. But like, why are we even going down that path? When you start asking better questions, you get better answers. But it hijacks the brain. Okay. It's the moment you hear a question, you literally can't think of anything else. And that can be a very powerful tool to use. Questions. Better questions. Okay. So a better question,
If you want to feel more empowered.
if you want to feel more empowered, is if I had a choice, which you do, how else would I want to think about this?
Cool.
Okay. Here's the cards dealt to me. How else could I be strategic about this? Could I be creative? If you want to create resilience, you ask a question, it's really easy. How might I be more resilient here?
Yeah, another question you can ask is like, who are people that are going through the same thing as I am right now?
Yes.
That I perceive to be responding resiliently, right?
Yeah.
Just even kind of like focusing and getting curious. Like, I wonder what's going on with them.
Yes. I like this one too. How might this strain be a perfect opportunity for me to grow? Because my brain goes now to like, I'm going to like the life gym and I'm like, these are my weights. And like, I'm lifting these weights and I'm becoming stronger mentally. I'm becoming mentally stronger, mentally more resilient. I love that picture that it creates.
The life gym, right? Gratitude.
Gratitude. What am I grateful for? Like, this will get you out of that scarcity mindset pretty quickly, where you'll be like, what do I have that I can be grateful for?
Yeah.
I mean, the very fact that we have running water and a bed to sleep in and that we're not in a concentration camp. God bless Viktor Frankl. But like, what do you have? Okay. Your life isn't that hard. If you're listening to this podcast, that means you probably have an iPhone or some kind of smartphone. So your life is not that hard.
All right. Resourceful. Which of my resources can I find or recover the quickest?
Yes.
What's this do for you, Erin?
I love how this kind of moves me into a maximization thinking. It's like, okay, first of all, I like doing it on the like coattails of gratitude and being like, all right, I already have these things. What can I maximize?
Yeah.
How can I be more resourceful with the resources I do have?
Even that creativity piece, you already said something there. I love this question here, folks, and this is kind of like my spiritual director coming out. But it's one that's, how do we approach this in a way that knowing that our ultimate end is complete dependence on God? It's like, God, how might God be using this situation to draw me into a deeper relationship and dependence on Him?
Yes.
Because He is.
Yes.
Always. He's always doing that. And there's something that's beautiful about that, because I know when I hear that question, I'm seeing this as like, not God, why have you abandoned me? But like knowing in fidelity, faithfulness, that God is drawing me deeper. I know that He's doing that. Even if He feels very distant, and this is where not like I'm experiencing dark night of the soul, but those saints that have experienced this, they know it as something where the Lord is, they have no sense of His presence there.
Yeah.
But the Lord is inviting it for this kind of real purification of their will to continue to will the pursuit of Him, even in that place where they just have no sort of consolation or return, reciprocation in that moment.
Yeah. Okay. So at the end of all of this, how do you want to think about this? How do you want to think about
Grocery prices.
your grocery bill, right? You look at it next time. I want you guys to play this out. Like literally walk through these steps with me. I look at my grocery bill. I think to myself immediately, because my brain is going there automatically. It's got a well-worn neural pathway. This is a high price.
Right. Capture that thought.
Capture. That's a thought.
Don't just reframe. Capture first. Awareness
And also,
first.
here's the thing that we're not saying. We're not saying lie to yourself and say, that is not high. That is very low.
I'm happy with how much beef costs.
Right. No, we're not saying lie to yourself, but capture that thought and notice where it leads you. Okay. And then step back and go, how do I want to think about this instead? Do I want to be more creative? Maybe I go to Aldi's instead of, the overpriced Publix that's like a quarter of a mile away from our house. Maybe we go somewhere else. Maybe we actually do some meal planning. Maybe we don't buy as much excess. Like, these are other things that you could be focusing on to actually coming up with a strategic response or plan to this. But how do you want to feel going into that? Because I promise you, continuing to feel powerless will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
You're going to create the same results that you have been.
And you will miss the opportunities for growth and growing closer to the Lord because, again, the Lord gives us these circumstances that are uncomfortable because he's always inviting us into a deeper relationship and dependence on him. Always, always. If we have eyes to see it, we get to choose whether or not we take advantage of that opportunity and there's grace that comes with that opportunity to actually respond and do it excellently.
Yeah.
So we have to ask, and there's a prayer part of it, but it's not just, Lord, do the work for me. Do the work of re-engineering my family budget now. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You still got to sit down with the spreadsheet and read and go through your family budget and see what works, right? Or do the work of coming up with that new business plan, of seeing how you're going to increase or you're going to put more value out into the economy in exchange for more value financially coming back to you.
Yes. Another thing that's coming up that I'm thinking people might be thinking, and this drives me crazy, when people go, like when they answer that question that you asked, like, how is the Lord kind of calling me to be more dependent on him? I know I have to be more trusting. That's
a whole nother podcast.
It really is. But I think when you put that, I need to pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
I think it really can create more distance between you and God. And like, it creates resentment actually towards God and being like, he's putting me through this for my own good. Like, darn it, and here's the thing. I think he wants to work on you in that interior space right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So if you're finding this resentment and being like, oh Lord, it's because you're calling me to detach and I'm like secretly kind of mad about that, tell him that you are, and also what he doesn't want to force us to do these things. He doesn't ever work against our free will.
Folks, this is why we have the Metanoia Catholic Academy here as well in our Academy Plus membership, so that if you're finding these thoughts, if you're capturing these thoughts, and you're not necessarily sure how to work through them yourselves, you are not alone. So we've created this as a space for Catholics to be able to do some of their mindset work so that they can assume more of these abundance outlooks on life and feel the transformation and the freedom that comes from that. All right, it's not the only thing that we do, but it's one of our favorite things to do.
Yes.
So check out check out Academy Plus. You can get a 7-day free trial with that. Just go to CatholicCoaching.com. In our Academy Plus area, you can just join that for free, 7-day free trial. And you can jump on some of our group calls. You can go to the group coaching call replays, and you can see how we're working with people. We have a very systematic approach that you learn how to do yourself the more you show up and you start to apply this. We even have a mindset journal that really walks you through the steps. The group coaching that we do, is really just walking you through the steps of the journal. So you can actually start getting into the habit of taking these thoughts captive.
Yes.
Whether it's about the economy or about your mother-in-law or about your boss or any of these thoughts, so that you can start to really have that beautiful virtuous lens in the way that you approach the world. And you can start to see the world as Christ sees the world. And you can start to show up as Christ in the world. That's the goal here for the head to heart journey of our Catholic faith, to really transform us and transform our lives and the people around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So long story short, stop letting circumstances control your emotions. There's a space in between that. That's where your freedom lies.
What will you do with your freedom? Will you fight? Bad Scottish accent. All right. We'll see you guys next time on the Catholic Coaching Podcast. Thanks for sticking around. Like and share. Please share this one, please. Please share. All right. Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.